Hi, everybody. I am Debbie Davis, and I'm an alcoholic. And boy, Fran, thank you so much for the invitation. The hospitality of the committee has been incredible. And this has been this amazing reunion for me. I mean, I see people here that are near and dear to my heart from Northern California, where I currently live, Southern California, where I used to live, Georgia, Minneapolis, people I've been sharing programs with around the country, my Al-Anon friends as well. I mean, this has just been an incredible, reunion for me. So my special thanks for this invitation and to invite me to share my story with you. You know, everybody in this room has a story. And today I've been asked to share mine. And I have loved being here this weekend. What happens is I get so inspired. I meet so many people, I hear their stories, regardless of their length of time, they inspire me to do more, to be more, to give more, to serve more. And I'm so glad to have that kind of a feeling in my heart, because that's what was shown to me when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, we have the triangle of our program of recovery, unity, and service. And I work very hard to apply that in my life. But there's also like a personal triangle of sobriety, date, home group, and a sponsor. It seems that when I finally got those three things in place, I was able to stay sober. Without them, I wasn't. So the simple formula for me was very clear when it was activated. And those were the very first three things that the old-timers told me when I came back to Alcoholics Anonymous this current time. I came back here, and I for the first time I knew I was surrendered. Thought I had been, thought I was done, learned my lesson. I had all those kinds of thoughts about it. But there was a shift. And this is kind of what I look for when I see people come in and out of this program, is the shift. I went from all the yakety-yakking and the head stuff and the intellectual giving up to the gut. And it was, instead about yakking about it, it was about doing it. I didn't have to tell you what I was going to do. You saw me do it. And that was the shift that happened to me. And there wasn't in a way that no people, places, or things could get me there faster. They tried. I thought I had been there, but the night for me it was going to be just this quiet resignation. Some people call it moment of clarity, desperation, surrender. Lots of different terminologies fit people. The one that fit me the best seemed to be just this silent resignation, and it just zeroed out on the inside. And I went to these people the next day, and I asked the most important question of my life. And I said, what do you do to stay sober? And then my body language in my mind indicated there was no going to be debating on my part, no yeah buts, no you don't understand, my case is different. I didn't know what you did, but your life looked pretty successfully sober. And you see, I wasn't asking the people that get there late and leave early, because they weren't there yet, okay? So I'm asking the people that get there early and live this as a way of life, not just something they do now and then. And this was what they shared with me. This is what they showed me. And the very first thing they said is that we don't take the first drink or anything else that affects us from the neck up, one day at a time, and we get a sobriety date. And that became my sobriety date. And that was February the 8th, 1976, which means I've been sober a little over 32 years. It also means I got sober when I was really young. I mean, like 5, okay? Okay.
I'm with you, man.
Okay, all right. All right. Right around there, okay? But I did get sober young, and I've never to this moment have had a legal drink of alcohol. I hope I never do. But that is my sobriety date. That means for me that I don't take anything that affects me from the neck up. I'm the kind of alcoholic totally described in the doctor's opinion Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. And see, I didn't know that when other people drank, they did not have the effect that I did from the very first time I took a drink. It was my automatic assumption everybody had this effect. And so I know that I'm not somebody who plays around with that. I don't drink near beer, okay? I don't smoke near pot. I don't take health store psychedelics. Or health store speed, or any of that kind of stuff, because I know this alcoholic mind. I'm looking for the effect. I'm not looking for a different flavored beverage, you know. I'm looking for the effect, and I will go where it is. If I get to that point of being so restless that I think that's a good idea, I will go to the real stuff. I'm not going to mess around with the pseudo kind of wannabe stuff. And so it starts with that, but to get a sobriety date for me, I needed to take a drink. And I'd always in my heart wanted to be a Southern belle, and so I guess it started with I was born in South Dakota, okay? Got to start somewhere. And so I was raised up in the Midwest, and by kind and loving, caring people. There is not any problem drinking, alcoholics, nothing. The closest thing we got in my family, other than me, is a suspect uncle, okay? It's not even confirmed. And I don't know where my alcoholism came from. A lot of times you can see it in family trees. Oddly enough, you can't find it anywhere in my husband's family. And yet he and I are both, certainly we know, alcoholics. And so I never saw problem drinkers. I never seen anybody drunk. I would be the first person I saw drunk. I didn't know how you got drunk, but I got invited at 12 years old by the cool kids in school to an upcoming party. And I desperately wanted to be liked by these kids. And that's very natural. 12 years old, have a little group you run around with and hang out with, and you generally do what they do. And I didn't belong with the athletic kids. I didn't belong with the smart kids. They didn't hold an attraction for me like these kids, because they were smoking cigarettes, skipping school, drinking beer, having some fun out there. And I took that first drink simply because I wanted to be accepted by them. I wasn't running away from a horrible home life whatsoever. It was a very kind, loving, caring family, churchgoers. There were all the needs were met. The majority of the wants are met. I don't know what suffrage or unhappiness is. It's just a nice little life. I'm an only child. Their world focuses on me. I like that, and still do, I guess. And so this is how the attitude I took that first drink with. And so that Friday morning, I woke up with good ideals that I always basically had a part of me: be a good daughter and a good student, obey the rules, stay out of trouble. I'm not somebody who likes trouble, still don't. I'm a conformist. I want to do the right thing. If you say turn right, I will. I won't challenge you. I think it's left. That's just part of what my makeup is. And yet the second thought on that morning was, I'm going to get drunk tonight. Now, I don't know that good ideals and getting drunk are going to come in direct conflict with each other. I don't know that because I don't know how you do it, but I heard those kids talk about drinking. Where I got get drunk tonight, I have no idea, but I was on a mission. And so that night when we arrived at that party, I remember so much of that very clearly, and it was like a liquid potluck. It was whatever you stole and brought from somewhere, and your parents and the drugstores, and there was it's 12 and 13-year-olds. It's a Friday night. I love Fridays, still do, drunk or sober. They were my favorite night of the week, and they were passing around a bottle in a brown bag. I don't know what it was, but I knew alcohol was in there. And when it got to me, I, was watching what they did, but I wanted to act like I do this all the time. You know how you are. And I took a big old pull off of that bottle, and I gave it to the next guy. And that was my first drink I remembered. And I'll tell you, that just ripped out my throat, just destroyed it. But the attitude I had was, you can always get another throat, Just don't stop there. And I was so glad I didn't, that just did not have enough of a deterrent to me. Because what happened a few seconds later, it went in, they hit that bottom we talk about. And the analogy that I always think about is like hot lava. It was warm, it was thick, it was quiet, and it flowed in my gut, and it filled in every hole in there, and I didn't even know there was any in there. And what happened is I just my shoulder just basically relaxed a little bit. And I got this warm glow 2 inches behind my belly button, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm 12 years old, and oatmeal has never done this to me, you know. I don't know what's in there, but I want some more, and I want it now. And so when I heard that phrase, more now, I knew that was a complete sentence. You know, I knew exactly what that meant. And when it got to me, because I wanted the same effect but a little bit more, I took the exact same action, and I took a pull off of that bottle, and I gave it to the next guy, ripped out my throat again, but not quite as bad. And it went down, and it did what really was be the magic that would help me skip over from social drinking into alcoholic drinking and thinking. You see, I didn't know there was any kind of a line there would be crossed, but if there is some sort of a line, I just had crossed it. I didn't know I've just had the one and only social drink I will ever have. Who knew you'd be telling these stories, you know, that you should keep track of that stuff. And, you know, I loved what happened with the second drink. It did the exact same thing, except this time it changed my relationship to you. First drink, I was still wanting your acceptance. The second drink, the anxiety and need for your acceptance changed to arrogance and an attitude of who needs you. I got moved into another world that I wanted to be in all the time. I no longer needed you to drink with, and from that point on, I would prefer to drink alone. I don't like to share. I still have a little bit of a challenge in sharing. That was the last night I ever shared a bottle of alcohol. You have to get your own. I'll help you with yours, but you have to have your own. And I just loved this new world, and I wanted to be there all the time. That wasn't going to be a reality for a while, but I wanted to just be there all the time. I love this world. I no longer need your approval. Now that night, I didn't start daily drinking at that point, but what happened is when I came here, I looked at all of you and found the differences. And if you are new or been here a while and looking for your back door and the way why you're different, you'll find it. You'll find that maybe you're a man and I'm a woman, or maybe you're getting sober later in life and I got sober young. If you're looking for differences, they're not easy. Yeah, they're easy to find. But I also found that when I was ready to be here, I found way more similarities than differences. And every time I found a similarity, the roots went just a little deeper. And so that's what I keep doing, is I keep finding the similarities with me and you. And so in the beginning, I don't want to be one of these alcoholic people that never drink again. And so I had to find the differences. And I thought, I didn't drink as long as you did, and I didn't drink as much as you did. And page 33 in our fabulous book, Alcoholics Anonymous, dispels those two things. It says it doesn't matter. That's not the qualifiers, is length of time or quantity. Because I'll tell you, I've never been in a meeting yet where we've had somebody new come in and they've raised their hand as in their first 30 days, and we say to them, now how much you been drinking? And they give you some response. And we're like, you're about a quart short of the required minimum, you know. I don't know what your internal depth is, you do. We don't qualify you based on length of time. Because I tell you, I've seen a lot of people, it sure looks like a bottom to me, but it's not to them. And so I looked for those differences like that. But the two things that qualified me are the two things that I understand are our primary symptoms. I activated when I took that first drink, and I don't know if I was born an alcoholic, doesn't matter to me, but I seemed to live a normal little kid life. I took a drink and it all changed. Everything about me changed. And I took that drink and I activated what I believe is the mental obsession. I told you how I woke up Friday morning, good ideals, get drunk. Saturday morning, next day, they're in reverse. I'm waking up thinking about drinking, can't wait to get it, asking all the questions. What should I get? Who should buy it? How much do I need? Where should I drink it? And I got caught that night I lied and about what happened, and I realized the solution for me was I'm going to have to be a better liar. At 12 years old, it was not stop drinking. Maybe I'm too young. Oh, no. It was I'm going to have to be a better liar. That gives you a clue about my solution ways. Secondly, I activated the physical craving. When I take a drink, I take a drunk. I started drinking that night with one intent, get drunk. I had no idea what that would end up looking like, and that would be the reason every time I picked up a drink. I would even not drink if I knew there wasn't the ability to have a night of drinking. I would rather pass than get a little carrot of a couple of drinks and then just leave you there. You know, that's why I'm not a happy hour kind of girl. I'm in for the long haul on that deal. And so that's how that started for me. I activated a lot of things that I would frequently do, and I would black out, and I passed out, and I came to with my first case of the dry heaves. That was all in the first night. And so because it's my only experience and I don't have anybody to kind of check this by, it's my assumption that I see all of you have the very same thing happen. I never thought any different than that. And I was off and running with this drinking, and my drinking was every opportunity I could create. Emotionally, I just shut the curtains. I don't remember a lot of feelings before I took the drink, and I remember very few after. There would be a blip on the radar of, embarrassed I got caught and in trouble. But that was just a blip. It wasn't enough to deter me from what I was going to do. I did not know I was in the grips of alcoholism. I did not know that. There wasn't anything to compare it to. About a year later, I'm introduced to the wonderful world of drugs, which I needed. The enhancements to my drinking, they allowed me to stay conscious longer before the inevitable blackout. I cannot identify as an addict. I was not addicted to any of those drugs. I liked them a lot. But booze was always the basis, and it enabled me to drink because I'm a blackout drink, and it prolonged it. And I find I like staying alert. And so I found things like speed and acid will help you. And they will get you there quicker and in color, let me tell you. I'm like, sign me up, I'm on it. And I love that, and it just really put the accelerator down in my illness. And I love hearing chapter 5. I always try and think when I'm hearing it, because I've certainly heard it a lot of times, I think about what it must have sounded like when they first read it. What do you think about this, guys? What do you think about this? Here's how it works. We got to let them know how we do this. And I think about that, and I think about that first paragraph, and it describes why I made it and why I didn't. And who and what. It totally explains to me why those first attempts at Alcoholics Anonymous were unsuccessful and why the third one was. I also like the ABCs because in B it says no human power could have relieved us of our alcoholism. And I look at my father and he tried. Oh boy, did he ever try. When my parents would divorce, I chose to live with him, and so he had the active alcoholism from the gate. And he did try all human power to relieve me of my alcoholism. By this time, the last straw was my senior year of high school. I was expelled for the third and final time 6 weeks before I'm supposed to graduate, all because of my drinking. And nice girls in 1975 in small-town high schools just don't have that happen to them. And yet, that I could have cared less. I had absolutely no feeling or blip on my emotional radar that this mattered. Oh, well. It just gave me more opportunity to drink. And he sought professional advice, and they said, while you still have legal custody, which would be running out pretty soon, you need to commit her to a treatment center. And so this is in May of 1975. And when I showed up after one of those vacations, the kind you're the only one who knows that was, on the vacation. I mean, you knew where you were, kind of, most of the time. Nobody else did. I showed up looking for money, of course, and they had a surprise for me, and so I was committed to a hospital in Grand Forks, North Dakota at that time for alcoholism and drug addiction. I'm 17 and a half years old, And my first beef, of course, was, of course, I'm not an alcoholic, but I think if you're going to start calling people that, they should at least be of legal age to drink. And of course, nobody pays attention to you anyway when you're new. But I would be in this treatment center. It was a 4-week program. I did it in 7 weeks flat, just raced right through that one. But I was introduced to you. I'd never heard the words alcoholism or sobriety or Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, why would I seek a solution to a non-existent problem? Was kind of my attitude. And they would take us to outside meetings of AA on Friday nights, which did not excite me because that looked like what I was going to be doing the rest of my life maybe, and I don't think so. Not on a Friday night. And so I'd sit in the farthest back part of the room, and they would tell their stories, simply what I'm doing today. And they would share their experience, strength, and hope. And I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, and I know that, even today. But I knew that if I related to what those people were saying, I might be one of them, and I don't want to be one of them. And I heard you say things like, I lost my family because of drinking. And many people have lost their family. But my attitude was, you can have mine, okay? I don't want them. They're always talking about my drinking. And that was the rationale. But in my own, where I really lived, that 2 inches behind my belly button, it'd been necessary for me to leave their home because it was no longer safe for them to be in. They never knew what they were coming home to. And that was the choice they had to make. I needed to go. They said, they talked about totaling out cars. And my attitude was that, I've never totaled out a car officially. You know how we get, it's got to be exact make and model or it doesn't count. I had a little drunk car that arrived to Alcoholics Anonymous because, you see, I was the designated drunken driver of my group. They can't drive sober, let alone drunk, and so I took care of the driving. And I had a little car that is the kind you start off and they're square. Okay, they start off square. And then when you drink and drive like I do, it gets rounded out with the drunk bumps and misjudgments in parking, and in North Dakota, you have ditches, so it's a roller coaster ride, and things are falling off, things are missing. The window had been shot out of it. And my gas cap was a mitten stuck in there, okay? I mean, I'm like driving a Molotov cocktail around, basically. It's like, Jesus. But that's drinking money. Gas caps are drinking money. Mittens work, and so that was the kind of thinking involved. There wasn't any thinking. A lot of improvisation, but no thinking. They talked about losing jobs. And it was still a little while before that fog would lift, and I began to realize, okay, maybe I did quit a few before I left, before I was fired, got fired from a couple. I always had a series of little jobs because I couldn't keep them and I needed the money for alcohol. But I realized in that last year I had a bad habit and I'd quit in blackouts. It's a problem when you go to work the next day, okay? You don't know you've quit. They're surprised you're there. It's just so awkward. And like I said, I never did get to be a good liar at all. And it was just, oh, man, you slink out of there and you do what you do. You go drink and laugh it off, And so they talked about things like that. But there were two things they said that have really bothered me. One of them was they talked about all those broken promises. Oh, man, that was a knife in the heart because I realized, looking back, I hadn't been able to keep a promise since I took the first drink. It always involved and be good, which meant don't drink or take any drugs, and I could do that for almost 2 weeks. It was like always the second Friday that tripped me up, I just couldn't get past that one. And I just didn't understand that. I mean, I knew I didn't want to quit. I would placate them with the information and the pleas and the, momentary sincerity. But that's what it was, momentary. And so I would start that drinking and the process and the cycle would start all over again. And I did not understand the progression of the illness. The other thing there was a woman talked about trying to scrub away the smell. And sat in the back of the room and I thought, ooh, you know, I've had this odor for about a year. And she says that's booze coming through her pores. And I know that she knows what the smell smells like. And my closest I got to you was, if I'm not careful, I might be one of those people. Because you see, they always said, if you don't remember your last drunk, you hadn't had it. And I kept thinking to myself, no, I don't remember mine, and I know I will drink again. I still had the pull, the craving to drink again. I was so far from surrendered. But now I have a lot of information. I was sent to an all-women's halfway house in Minneapolis. That's how I ended up down there. And I did the minimum. I mean, I don't want to look like I'm rushing into this thing. I'm like joining up or something. And so I did the minimum, which was don't drink, don't take any drugs, and go to one AA meeting a month. Okay? That's what I heard. And that's all I did, too. And after 7 months of not drinking, and this is why I know for me, the not drinking part is the foundation, but it is far from what it's all about. It launches me into the opportunity and the ability to practice and apply a program of recovery to give me a way of life. And that I just thought it was just all about not drinking and everything's going to get wonderful. But after 7 months of doing one meeting a month, I went to California to visit my mother for a 2.5-week holiday. First week I'm, hanging around with the people I used to drink with. First mistake, and certainly something they did not encourage me to do in the halfway house. Second week and a half I'm there, drunk and loaded. And I blamed California booze and drugs because I knew that if I was only with my old friends and my old playgrounds, everything would be different. And yet I knew the other part of me that had been to too many meetings knew it wouldn't. And I came back to California with an attitude of, man, I have learned my lesson. I mean, I can't believe how different my drinking was. It was just that week and a half was in and out of blackouts. And I was mad that it wasn't the exciting, fun, gay time it had been once before. And I came back with an attitude of I've learned my lesson, and I stepped my meetings up from one a month to one a week. Man, I'm flying through those meetings now, one a week. 5 weeks later, I get a letter in the mail on a Friday, and it had one joint in it. And I decided to keep it because I thought, you just never know when you might need something like this. It was so amazing. I needed it the next day. Yeah, wow, right, the timing, yeah, oh. This is my great reminder that I'm somebody, and I'm really glad my husband's the same way. Everybody's household makes their own choices. Our choice is to not have any alcohol or any of those social drugs in our home. And the reason I'm so glad it's that way is because I have had many times in my sobriety those meteoric thoughts flying by that if there was whiskey in there, I think I'd have a drink right now. Where does this come from? I don't know. Where I've had the wrong set of emotions. And had it been just in the next room, I want it inconvenient to me. I am 100% responsible for protecting my physical sobriety. Nobody else can, nobody else is. I am 100%. And that's why I don't fool around with the near beer and all that kind of wannabe stuff. This is why we don't have it in our home. If I get so insane that I think a drink is a really good idea, whether it be for a problem or a celebration, I want it inconvenient. I want to have to find the car keys, find the purse, get it in the car, drive somewhere so that something has an opportunity to stop the insanity. I just don't want it convenient. And so this is one of the ways and reasons is that when I have it, I will probably do something with it. And so I did not know that would be the last thing to this moment that I would take of a mood-altering nature. Was not my intent. I've heard others say it before. If I knew that was the last thing I was going to do, my gosh, I'd have done something a little bit more elaborate or bigger, something more exciting. But in a way, I knew that the reason I didn't plan any big weekend, week-long, let's go after it, It was going to be a secret. A weekend drunk is a little harder to hide than one joint. So I thought. The problem is that I knew. The attitude was they don't need to know. No, they don't need to know. But I knew, and I could not, with the little conscience I had acquired, I knew I could not live with this lie, this secret. And this is why, for me, the bottom was not a physical one at all. It was, my flat line was in the nature of spiritual, emotional, and mental. And that, because there'd been no growth, it just finally died, running my life, doing it my way, just as I saw fit. Leave me alone. So what? Who cares? It finally just zeroed out. And when that died, it had an opportunity to start to live. And not as even an answer to a prayer, that zeroed out moment, I got a thought. Those people in AA seemed to know what to do because I was sick of my life the way it was. And I went to them that next day and asked them that question, what do you do to stay sober? And so it began with that physical sobriety date, which I treasure a great deal. I protect it. I don't play games with it because that is the launching pad for everything else in my life. The second thing that they told me is that we go to a lot of meetings and we get a home group. And I've lived in 4 different areas of the country sober. I have had 4 different home groups as a result of that. To this moment, that's the reason I've changed home groups, is I've literally left the state or the area. And the home group is so valuable to me. I have learned all the tools in living with one another and in the world out there because of a home group. I mean, we really are people who normally would not mix. And yet this is my best training ground ever. And what happened is I got these home groups and I learned about commitment. I learned about courtesy. I learned about consideration to other people. I learned about sitting still and paying attention, and that if I'm up and about and talking, I might make somebody miss what they need to hear. And I started caring about you long before I started caring about me. And so that enabled me to start sitting still and paying attention and growing in this recovery program, taking these steps and changing. You know, I don't know about your home group, but what I realized when I moved to this last one, a couple of things. First of all, as I said, I've had 4 different home groups. I was also had 4 different last names when I made this last move. That was my 4th different last name. And, I mean, they're all legitimate, but I think Manny is the only one in this room that knows me by all 4 last names. And, you know, it's always amazing when whatever the first one they knew me by is where I was living at the time. And I've loved my home groups. My current home group is the Primary Purpose Group in Dublin, California. I live in Concord, and Dublin's about a 25-minute drive away. And to me, driving to that meeting is not a big deal. But I have people ask me, well, gosh, isn't there something like a little bit more local in Concord that's a good meeting? I said, absolutely. There's plenty of them. But this is my home group. I take care of this group. It's got a magic. It's got an energy and electricity about it. I want to be a part of that. I want to be a participant in that. I want to be an active member in that, and I am. Ever since I got here, I have had different commitments in my jobs, and I don't know about your home groups, but every one I've had has always had a couple of people. Well, I just know that they would be happier in somebody else's home group, you know? You just know these things, you know? And there's 2 things I have to remember about that. Every time I'm thinking that, I'm the common denominator thinking it. And number 2, if I'm thinking that about somebody, of course I never voice it, but if I'm thinking that about somebody, I bet somebody that's thinking it that way about me too. Gosh, I wish she'd go somewhere else. So we all get to learn, you know, we all get to learn how to live with each other here. And so I love that home group. It's taught me a tremendous amount of things. It taught me how to be a daughter. It taught me how to be a friend. It taught me how to be in the game of life, honestly, upright, with some integrity, with some grace, with some dignity. I've watched you in my home groups walk through bigger things in a speck in your life than I will know in a lifetime. and you gave me the courage to do whatever it was that I would be faced with. You've given me that by your demonstration, and so a home group is vital to me. When they talk about driving 25 minutes to a home group, and they ask me about that, I think, I used to drive an hour and a half on the rumor there was a party somewhere, okay? 25 minutes to a solid, great meeting, hey, not a problem. They told me that we get someone that we can talk to, and that's a sponsor. Sponsor's been a mentor to me in life, in this program. I've had 3 fabulous sponsors, one in Atlanta, one in Minneapolis, one in Southern California, who I continue to have. Millie G and I have been walking this path for over 21 years. I love that woman. She is the best example I know, and I have the privilege of passing it on to women. And I like being in the middle of that kind of thing. Someone I choose to be accountable to, and someone I want to set the best example to. And so sponsorship has been a vital part to me. They said that we take these steps when we get out of our very own understanding. And I have taken these steps, and every time I get a chance to take someone through them, I get a chance to sort of relive that all over again. And I have developed that relationship with that power. I have had the spiritual awakening, which is the only thing it promises me as a result of doing the first 11 steps. It's if I change around, it says the result of these steps is a spiritual awakening. And that is what I've gotten to have. That's the only thing it promises me. Not a wonderful job or a wonderful guy or gal or a wonderful place to live. Nothing else except a spiritual awakening, and that's happened. And then I have my marching orders to carry it out, and they said that we carry this message, that we be of service, and my service is in all kinds of ways. In addition to sponsorship and so forth, I have the different ways that I'm in service in my local area outside of the meeting rooms. And it's important for me because every time, the few times that I have felt bored in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was not in service. I was into me. I was into my 1-2 meetings a week at that time, and I'll tell you about that in a second, but I found that service was not active in my life. And so I know what keeps it fresh. After 32 years of being here, I needed to stay fresh. I need to stay enthused. And that's why I like to look around rooms like this and meet the many people that I know here that are sober longer than me, still active, still in this. And I am inspired to do more. And so, and the traditions, they said, those aren't just for the group, Deb. Also learn how to apply them in your personal life. And, I know that technically they weren't not designed for personal use, but when I came here, I was such a blank slate on any kind of social skills, inability to, have a conversation with you. If we disagreed, we were no longer friends. I didn't know how to, agree to disagree without being disagreeable, that whole thing. I love that phrase we have. I didn't know how to get along with people, respect your opinion, listen to it, honor it, and know that I need to have an open mind. And know when to stay firm on when I am, but I don't have to be ugly about it. And so I've learned that from the traditions, how to have a relationship one-on-one and with a group. When I first got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was on fire. I was so active and in the sunlight of the Spirit and applying this program and working with others and in service. I moved to Atlanta. And that was a period of time where I just fell into a couple years of complacency. I thought I knew what was good for me. I knew something at 4 years sober, and that was 7 meetings a week, an awful lot of meetings. I'm going to trim that down, get a little balance in my life. That's a scary word in my book. And for this alcoholic, I balanced it right down to 2 meetings a week. And what happened over that period of time is this is when that boredom set in, that complacency set in. I could still tell myself I'm doing everything they asked me to do. It's getting shorter and it's getting smaller, but I can still make that justification. And I'm 6 years sober, taking a cake, and absolutely restless, irritable, and discontent. Don't know why. Failed to look at the fact of what I had changed. Instead of getting to my meeting 45 to 60 minutes early, I'm getting there 5 minutes beforehand, walk in, get my coffee, and sit down. Instead of being one of the last people to leave the meeting, it's amen, shake, shake, and you're looking at taillights going out the door. I haven't participated in anything except sit down, get coffee, throw a buck in the basket. Take. Nothing on the give, which is what keeps my feet grounded here. So I figured that people, places, and things will make me happy. But that wording is more called men, money, and mansions are going to make me happy. And so it's amazing. 3 weeks later, I met a little fella on a Friday. You know, it's an omen. It was a Friday. And met this little fella. He had all these qualifications I was looking for. He'd even been sober 13 years, hadn't had a meeting in 3, but no problem, I'm going to help him. And I set out to help this little fella. Now, he didn't ask for any help, but by gosh, I've learned perseverance here. And I'm going to put it to personal use. I'm going to get this little fella back activated in AA, and we're just going to be, you know, this little couple. And what happened in reality was the light switch of insanity got flipped on inside of me. And I'd sit in front of that mirror lying to myself, knowing I was lying, and couldn't seem to stop. I was getting in some very slippery thinking and very slippery places. I wasn't thinking about drinking, but I was, you know, playing around with being in that environment. Dances. And what happened is after 3 months of this whirlwind romance, of which I was the only one involved, God, I hate those. Oh, God. Well, this little fellow married somebody else. And so I let him go. And I'm a good sport. And, and it was just amazing. It wasn't but a few weeks later, I met another little fellow, similar qualifications, did this dance of delusion for 3 months, and off he ran down the aisle with somebody else, too. And at 6.9 years of sobriety, my life came crashing down one more time. I had not drank, but that wasn't far off the horizon. And I recommitted myself to Alcoholics Anonymous 110%. And what that means to me is that I know all the things to do, and you do it, and then you add another 10%. And that's the cushion that I've required and needed for these years. That helps it from getting stale. That helps it from getting 100%, and then a little bit of nail file on that wooden box, and it's down to 99.99. Then the next day a little bit more, because what happened for me went 4 to 6, is it went from a box to a small round wooden ball, and I didn't know how, and that's how it did it. And so I recommitted myself to AA. I took those steps again as if I had never seen them or taken them before, and they looked new and fresh again. 8.5 years sober, I'm sitting in a meeting with just a twinge of restless, irritable, and discontent. And I heard a guy one more time, so grateful that I was present and I didn't miss the line he said. He talked about feeling that way, and he said, I realized I was trying to live today on last year's program. And that's all I heard him say, and I realized that's what I'd been doing. I've been patting myself on the back for making a very long time overdue amend. And I hadn't really been living in this day. This is the day that counts, to show up for life, for service, for prayer, for God, for my sobriety. This is the only day I got. Yesterday is gone. I don't know if I have tomorrow. Got a pretty good shot if I do this full day sober. Got a pretty good shot. But this is the day that counts. I don't want any more unmarked days. I want every one of them to count. And so I was so grateful for that. And a few years later, I would get married, move to Southern California. That's how I ended up down there. And after 5 years and 9 months of that marriage, it would come to an end. And it was in 1992. And my ego and I'm feeling embarrassed and what a loser, and all these kinds of things we go through. That we just feel so terrible about. But one event at a time, I showed up at those meetings, because there was often many of the times where it was me, the soon-to-be ex-he, and the brand-new she. And, those are kind of awkward meetings, at times. And you know what? Because I didn't run away from the situation, of any one question I've ever been asked, it's how do you stay in the rooms? And if I'd have run away, nobody'd be asking that question. But because I'd had people with bigger burdens than me, as I said before, walk through tougher stuff, I knew I could stay one event at a time. Not forever, but one meeting at a time I can do this. Because, you see, nobody got custody of the home group. Everybody's got a need to learn how to practice principles before personalities, and we did. Well, I had to take my own inventory, of course, and I realized that I know zippo about being a partner in a relationship. And it's not like this is Relationships Anonymous or anything, but I knew that at this time in my life, this was a new plateau and an area of being uncovered that I needed to do things differently about, needed to learn about, needed to make some changes in. And I began to incorporate those changes in my life over the next several years. And I dated some folks and made those changes. And in April of 2000, I'd be at a conference in New Orleans, and I would, now there's two stories to this, but this is my story. I would meet my man who had become my husband, Kent, that weekend. And we would marry a year later. And I'll tell you, we got married April of 2001. And what a journey, what a joy to travel this path with someone. He's also an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous, so much an equal in activity to me. It's really proud to be a part of his life, and he's here with me this weekend. And he's 20 years active in this program, and I got to tell you, I really do like being sober longer than he is, you know. But I only use that when I need to, you know. And we've had a great journey, and we were back in Atlanta for our first anniversary, and this was the last of the people, places, and things it was important for him to meet in my life. And we're back there, and we went to my old home group, the Skyline Group, on Friday night, and it's exciting to be back there. And on Saturday morning, I opened up my day with my prayers, as I always do. Please help me stay sober today, and I still say those prayers this morning. Please help me stay sober today, and a few other things. And we went to a luncheon that day, and we sat down, and there was pre-poured wine for everybody. And now I'm 26 years sober. I am so in the middle of you. I'm in the middle of the herd, as they talk about. I have a strong spiritual connection. I have no problem saying no. This, you know, I don't get affected by this kind of thing. And yet I confirmed the beverage, and they said, yes, it was wine. And so maybe I would have done something different today. I don't know. But the reaction I have is I push it out of my way. And not that I could smell it, but I was very aware that it was there. And when lunch was finally over, I don't know why it had been such a distraction to me, but it was. And I felt that it was going to be one of those things that just kind of blows over, you know, kind of like one of those drinking nightmares you get when you startle up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you realize that, you know, it was just a nightmare. I mean, even in your nightmare, you're already coming back to AA. You know, you've had those kind where you got drunk and you're coming back to AA, and you're in their first 30 days, and you think, I don't want to raise my hand. I'll just move. You know, I'm just going to, nobody has to know. And, you know, that's how real and vivid they are and stuff. And so, you know, you come to and you realize this is your bedroom, and you know the guy next to you and all this kind of stuff. You know, that's your husband, and that's a good thing, and all that. And you're where you're supposed to be. And so I kept waiting for the wake up that didn't come. And what happened for the next 6 months, it would be as if I was gripped with the craving for alcohol for 6 months. It was not the mental obsession. If there was a mental obsession, it was to stay safe. It was to avoid slippery, dangerous places for me and stay extra safe. And I don't know, you know, what you would really call something like that, but because I thought, how can you have the physical craving if you haven't taken in alcohol, because that always activated it. But it was as if I was chemically imbalanced for the craving of alcohol. And it really bothered me. It scared me a lot. And what happened is, you know, I'm starting to think, why isn't this going away? I mean, I am on solid spiritual ground. I'm actively in the middle of this program. And I talked to my sponsor, and I would talk to Kent, and I'd say, you know, do you see me doing something I shouldn't be doing? I can't see it. I don't want to live this way of life. I don't want this feeling. I don't know what's happening. And I started looking at all the things that took people out that, you know, many times we know that the drink doesn't come in the form of a drink initially. It comes in the form of a job, or the chase for money, or the guy or the gal, or the get it all, or the be it all, or something gets put in front of as the priority to recovery. And are you lying, stealing, cheating, doing anything inappropriate? No. Are you going to meetings? Absolutely. And I'm not a flake. You know, I'm getting there early, staying late, working with others, active with sponsor, active in prayer. I couldn't find any of those things because I felt if I'm doing everything right, how could this slip in? So obviously I must be doing something wrong. What is it? Let's get that hole filled and plugged up, back on the road of happy recovery. And I couldn't find anything over and over and over again. And I had a lot of new people in my life during that time. And it was almost like my new way of being able to, again, not that I took my sobriety for granted or early sobriety struggles, but I had this different look at what it felt like, and the struggle was really refreshed in my mind that I don't ever want to start over again. I don't. And so one day I'm at a meeting, 6 months of this has gone by, and I'm at a meeting that morning, the meeting's over, I'm on my way home, and I'm gripped with that obsession, and that I'm so fearful that I would like almost be in a brownout and drink against my will. And I was able to get a hold of my sponsor. God knew I needed her more than anybody on the planet that moment. And she listened to me, and she said words that I knew, but they were perfect. She says, honey, what we have is the disease of alcoholism, not alcoholism. And I know that, but what it reminded me of is that, thank God I'm not defective. I have an illness that will always be with me. Chapter 3 was read tonight. It says, we are in the grip of a progressive illness. It gets worse, never better. If I am in the grip of a progressive illness, then I had also better be on track with a progressive recovery. What's working today is for today. What I did 10, 20, 30 years ago was for then. My recovery had better be as progressive as the illness. We often hear our illnesses doing sit-ups or push-ups, but I tell you, mine better be doing some heavy lifting, because I want that to combat the illness, and it will if I continue on this path of recovery. The not drinking is where it starts. This way of life is big. The relationship I have with the God of my understanding needs to be in place in a solid way. I may not always feel like God and I are just walking hand in hand, and that's all right, but I don't stop the action if I don't feel that way today, because it will pass just like all the other things pass. I know that if I have the craving or the mental obsession, I do not have to pick up the drink. I have the tools in place to not do that. For my recovery, for my sobriety, for my way of life, my debt to you will never be paid, and I thank you for allowing me to make a little bit of a payment today. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think my name's Fred. I'm an alcoholic. I'd like to thank the speaker again one more time. That was great. Thank you.